Hey, what's up guys? John here. We're walking into a shipping disaster, one of which we've never seen before. You may have thought we've seen shortages in 2020 and 2021.
Can't find lumber to build a new home. Well, you can't find products to stock the shelves of your small business. You can't find holiday gifts. It's all because of the global supply chain crisis that's happening right now.
This is nothing compared to what we are walking into. Maersk, which is one of the largest shippers in the world, now laying off over 10,000 employees due to a string of new regulations and changes coming to the shipping industry. These changes are going to make items much more expensive for everyday people.
Rising gas prices. The national average is $3.85 a gallon. That's the highest it's been in about 10 months.
Supermarket shoppers sick of high prices are starting to reach a boiling point.
Unless we have a recession, these high prices are going to be with us for the rest of our natural life.
And the reason for it is less is going to be distributed, and since that is going to happen, more money is going to be chasing fewer items. Prices are going to continue to go up. So when they say inflation is transitory, look at what's going on. And you tell me, is inflation going to go down or is inflation just getting started? I'm going to break it down. I'm going to show you the facts. Please hit the like button. When you hit the like button, YouTube will share this content to educate the people about what's really going on. And if you'd like to fix your credit to position yourself for the greatest wealth transfer of all time, we'd love to help you at my company, GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, any negative item on your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com. Click the link in the description to schedule a free strategy session. Take a look at this. So, Maersk to cut 10,000 jobs as shipping revenue slides. There's a lot more to this story. So, global shipping giant A.P. Moller Maersk on Friday outlined plans to lay off at least 10,000 staff in a desperate bid to cut costs following the collapse of its third quarter revenues. The Danish shipping company announced plans to cut 9% of its entire workforce by the end of the year by slashing its headcount from 110,000 at the start of 2023 to less than 100,000 in 2024. Shares in Copenhagen listed Maersk plunged 9% on Friday, having lost 23% of their value over the past 12 months. Maersk plans aimed at saving the company $600 million in 2024 following a 47% drop in its third quarter revenues on the back of plunging sales from its freight shipping business due to heavy price competition. The situation saw Maersk's profit drop 94% to $521 million. Well, you may have heard about what's happening right now in the Panama Canal. This drought hits new crisis levels, nearly half of vessel traffic targeted for cuts. So the Panama Canal, and they are saying this is the reason for it, the Panama Canal, with this new regulation, this is now going to make things much harder to get items through it. And so here's what's happening. Starting Friday, Panama Canal Authority is implementing additional vessel reductions in an effort to conserve water as a drought exacerbated by a severe El Nino weather system continues to plague water levels in the locks of key global trade conduit. According to the Panama Canal authorities, the drought requires them to reduce the number of daily transit from 29 to 25 ships, and in the preceding weeks, they will reduce vessel transit even more until it declines to 18 ships a day. In February, that represents between 40 to 50% of full capacity on normal conditions, between 34 to 36 vessels transversed the canal a day. The drought and vessel reductions are having a major impact on the flow of trade, according to data from CNBC. According to Project 44, shipping containers going through the Panama Canal to the East Coast are being delayed in select ports, with the Port of Charleston seeing the longest delays. So you start to look at what's happening here. You're going to start to see supply chain difficulties. That's what we're walking into. And I mean, they've been talking about this coming right here. For example, the European Commission, they have new regulations coming January 2024, so about 2.5 months. The EU trading system will extend to cover these emissions from larger ships, and regardless of the flag that they fly. 50% of emission voyages started or ending outside the EU, allowing the third of the country to decide on appropriate action for remaining share emissions. 100% emissions that occur between two EU ports when ships are within EU ports. And so they go through all of the new emissions in 2025, it's 40%, 2026, 70%, 2027, 100%. So you're starting to see this. To ensure smooth transition, shipping containers only have to surrender allowances for a portion of their emissions during the initial phase of the period. So we are going to start to see a situation where money is going to become much more important, because everything's going to get more expensive. And so if you want that TV, if you want that laptop, if you want that car part, whatever it may be, it's going to cost more because there's going to be less in availability, right? There's going to be less available. So more money is going to be required to buy them. And it's going to be he or she who has the most money is going to be the one that still, is able to operate easily. And those that don't are going to have an uphill battle. Now, I believe this is going to be a slow and gradual transition, but it's a definite 100% transition that's happening. I mean, here, the UK as well, to tighten emission trading scheme 2024, right? So if you look at it right here, UK, and here, Europe, right? And then you look here, Harvard Business Review. This came out literally a year ago, right? 1 year ago. They're saying that these regulations are about to disrupt the global shipping, right? And they say that even as companies around the world continue to struggle with the impacts, the pandemic, and the war on Ukraine on global supply chains, there's another challenge looming, the new environmental regulations that promise to change how shipping companies operate many transoceanic and regional routes. These new rules from the International Maritime Organization, the United Nations agency responsible for regulating global shipping, will have significant implications for how container lines design their services. They'll have consequences for production location choices that underpin global supply chains, plus European Union regulations that are likely to be passed, which they were, before the end of 2022, and whose initial phase would begin in 2023, promise to add additional cost and complexity. Managers in supply chain and sourcing need to start planning for these changes. And so they go on to really kind of dive into the details here. But in short, this is all happening. Look here, putting a price on this could raise 40 to 60 billion each year between 2024 and 2025. So you start to look at this. They say it could raise 40 to 60 billion. Where's that 40 to 60 billion coming from? It's going to be coming from consumers, because shipping companies aren't just going to strike the check and keep prices the same. No. Everything gets passed along to the consumer. Just like if you are renting an apartment and your landlord, gets a new insurance bill and it's much higher than before, of course he wants to push the cost onto you. Same thing, property taxes go up and wants to push the cost onto you. If, gas prices go up, this shipper is going to push the cost onto you. And that's how it's going to continue to go. So prices are going to likely continue to rise in a very, very big way. So when you hear, public figures saying that inflation is transitory, you have to ask yourself how. How will it be transitory? If we look at energy prices continuing to rise, and we look at what's happening right now with shipping and distribution, we look at what's happening to the trucking industry, all of which equate to problems, all of which equate to higher costs that are going to be pushed along to the consumer. So I personally believe we're walking into a scenario over the next, call it 6 months, 3 months, as 2024 starts, and then it's going to slowly start trickling through the economy, to where consumers are going to start paying much, much, much more for everyday products and services. And I think what's ultimately going to happen is the real net impact is going to be the smaller businesses. Because if you look at some of these really large companies, the Amazons of the world, the Walmarts of the world, they own their own shipping and distribution. And what is this going to do? This is going to allow them to have, more freedom. It's going to allow them to have more authority over their business versus going through one of these larger freights, like Maersk, right, to cut 10,000 jobs. So you start to look at this. This is going to make things very challenging for many small business. But I think what ultimately is going to happen, a lot of these small businesses are going to start trying to lean online more and more and more. They're going to start trying to, move into digital products, digital services. They're going to start trying to figure out how they can make ends meet. Because the old way of doing business is going to be very, very challenging if large corporations are able to undercut on cost, because they're able to buy it for 50 cents on the dollar when small businesses are buying it for 80 cents on the dollar, right? What do you think about this situation? Do you think that you look at how fast this is advancing. They said with the reduced transit schedule, on average, of 26 daily arrivals by commercial ships per day on the Pacific side of the canal, and an average of 8 daily arrivals on commercial ships per day on the Atlantic side of the canal, the likelihood of cargo waiting idle will increase. According to Maritime, wait times have increased on the Atlantic side last week on average by 30%. The delays are leading shippers sending cargo to U.S. East Coast, West Coast ports to make alternative plans. The extra money and time traveling through the Suez may add a week to 10 days for cargo to arrive, but you know when it will reach the final destination. You think about this. We're walking into a scenario, and I've been saying this a little while. it's the rug pull on the middle class. That's what we're walking into. I'm not saying this to scare anyone, but I think having the facts, looking at things clearly, allows people to make smart, forward-thinking decisions based on what is really happening versus what's not happening. What's really happening is, think about this, if you're a property owner, you may say, okay, well, I already have an online business. Okay, but you may have a mortgage. And if you have a mortgage, you're going to have insurance. And if you're going to have insurance, that insurance company is going to realize, hey, the HVAC is going to be more expensive. The roof is going to get more expensive. Everything, all the supplies, everything that you would need in the event of a fire on your property or disaster to hit your property would cost them more, meaning they're going to push the cost onto you. So insurance, everything is going to continue to go up. So I do believe that this wealth transfer is going to present a lot of people with a lot of opportunity to make a lot of money. But I also think that many people look at this information and they say, okay, we'll deal with it when it gets here. Look at how expensive things are now. Without this, just imagine when this starts to really trickle in. Again, I'm saying this to position people because I want people to do very well based on what's actually going on. What do you think about this? Drop below. We'll have a conversation about it. If you are a small business owner or if you are someone that is looking at this information, asking yourself, what's the best plan? Drop below, have a conversation. You guys, might come up with a really good solution, or at least we'll have a talk about, where this is actually going. Where do you think this is going? Drop below, hit the like button, and if you'd like to fix your credit, we'd love to help you at my company, GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, any negative item on your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com. Click the link in the description just below this video. Schedule a free strategy session. See you in the next video.